Tuesday Golf Show. I'm Ben Raza here with Fantasy Golf Man Tim Frank. We've made it through the whole year, but better late than never. I have a fun announcement for the people. We got a sponsor for the show, and it's Fantasy Draft, our friends at Fantasy Draft, and they're doing some really cool stuff over there. They have rake-free daily fantasy, so you can play your favorite contest rake-free. 100% of the entry fees are paid to the winners, as you know. And they're doing a limited time offer. It's a 7-day free trial. Your first $1,000 rake free entries. Use the promo code AWESOMO. Perfect time to do it. Obviously, we got football coming up, and golf really never ends. So Fantasy Draft is cool, doing cool stuff. We're going to talk a little about their pricing as well. But what say you, man? We made it through the entire regular season of golf.
Your boy, JT Poston.
So sick. I mean, he's the man. I wanted to, you and me are, I think we're like 35 outrights behind everyone else this year in the Twitter universe. I wanted to just get up to one with Benny on. Really thought he had it, but I don't know if you watched. How do you hit it? He took an unplayable on the easy par 5 both days on the weekend. You just can't do that.
Typical Benny. I don't know. He just can't seem to get the job done, at least on the PGA Tour.
Oh, it was so gross. He actually putted well. We're going to get into all that, but yeah, JT Poston, that guy's the man. I really do like him. Webb is not the man though. Get him out of here.
You've obviously seen more in Poston than I've seen, because I was never high on the guy, but it does show you that guys that can putt can win. It's a lot easier for those guys to win, I feel like, than just constantly trying to chase these terrible ball strikers like I do,
It's, yeah, I mean, I will say that JT Poston's a guy that I've played a lot, even when he had bad stretches, and he's a weird, I don't want to say Wyndham Clark-X, but he's a good driver of the ball and he's a good putter. The irons are always what kind of held him back, and some of these courses, obviously, when you make improvements there, we saw it. He had no bogeys. I don't know, what to really make of that. It's a little different. It will be interesting as we get into this show. You've got, and I think you talked about this on Twitter a bit. There is a bunch of guys who have been beating up on super easy courses, super easy fields, and then you have some of the big names that really haven't played much, if at all.
Yeah, a weird dynamic going on with, these end of the season events have not been good. If you go back to Rocket Mortgage, 3M, John Deere, Barracuda, Barbasol, Wyndham. I mean, that's a run of really bad events, really easy courses, weak fields. And then, the big guys have really just played the WGC and the Open Championship. So yeah, it's going to be tough to kind of parse it out. For instance, you got Colin Morikawa at 8,500 and Hideki at 8,400. Like, that's perfectly encompasses what I'm talking about. Morikawa just crushing all these bad fields, Hideki on kind of a downswing. Like, what do you do with that? And I think you're gonna have a lot of those choices on which route you want to go. If you want to go with the better golfer all around, the more class, or you want to go with maybe a worse golfer but better form, better stats recently.
That's going to be certainly something we're going to discuss, because that's the name of the game. So this is the Fedex Cup Playoffs. First things right off the bat, we get 121 guys. It would be 125 normally. We got 4 that are done. Sam Burns, broken ankle. RCB pulled out. And then we've got Stenson in case he decided not for them either. So we got 121 guys, normal cut, top 70 in ties. And this is the first leg, the Northern Trust. Kind of in my backyard, I guess. Jersey City, Liberty National. What do you make of the course? Have you taken a look at it?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to make too much of it. We've seen it twice before, 2013, 2009, 7,300 yard par 71. So pretty long for a par 71. And it's played pretty hard both years. Minus 11 was the winning score in 2013. It was the 22nd hardest course, played slightly above over par as far as stroke average goes. 2009 played very tough. It was minus 9. Was the winning score. 8th hardest course on tour. I think in between those 2 years, I think they made some changes, but made it a little bit easier. But still, minus 11 for a winning score. That's pretty difficult, especially when you're talking about a strong field. as far as what the course requires, I'm not going to get too much into that. I don't think we can take too much out of 2 years. I'm just looking at guys who play well in strong fields, play well in tougher scoring environments. I think distance will be an advantage. But I mean, you look back in 2009, Heath Slocum won here, and not a lot of people probably even know who Heath Slocum is, but I don't know, Brian Gay, maybe not as good of a putter, but a very short hitter,
Yeah.
a very short, accurate guy. So he won in 2009. And in 2013, you had like a lot of ball strikers: Adam Scott, Graham DeLette, Rose, Woodland, Tiger. So yeah, I'm just looking at ball strikers with a little bit of distance and maybe a little bit of emphasis on short game. I think it's going to play tough again this year, but I'm trying to not get too caught up in any one type of golfer, because really with 2 years of data, we don't have enough to make definitive decisions on that kind of stuff, I don't think.
No. And this is obviously, we still have some, I don't want to say bad golfers. Obviously, they're top 125, but for the most part, we got a lot of good players, and we've talked about this a lot. If they play well, it's not going to really matter. You can get away with driver here. There's some long par fours. There's some gettable par fours. I don't think it really tailors itself to one thing. You got bent grass greens if you want to look at that. So yeah, I think you can get it done in a number of ways. If Heath Slocum can do it, anyone can do it. Yeah, Adam Scott, obviously.
Who's a good? I don't even know a good comp for Heath.
Not Slocum. Rory, I can tell you that. No one's confusing him with Rahm. But the President's Cup was here in 2017. I don't really read that much into it. Obviously, the U.S. played pretty well in that.
Have we ever lost the President's Cup? I don't even know.
I don't think so. Well, that's a whole different. There are guys battling for that, especially on the international side. It'll be interesting to see guys who will get the nod now that Rory Sabatini's not in the mix to carry them home. But that's neither here nor there. I'm not keeping it too crazy. Like you said, we've got a large body of work on what these guys have done, and then it's just what do you want to do? Do you want to lean on recent form? Do you want to lean on the Brysons of the world, the Deckies of the world, who we know they can turn it on at any moment, but there's no doubt that someone like Neiman, someone like Morikawa are just playing better than those guys.
Yeah, it's a lot of question marks this week, but I think I like the playoffs. I really wish they would have stayed at the 4 events. I don't know. I don't know. I don't agree with the 3 event playoff, but yeah, I mean, this is a good one. As long as there's still a cut, I think the non-cut events, it gets a little wonky, but yeah, this is I'm definitely looking forward this week. Ton of great players, and after this run of bad events, it's nice to get back.
We're back in business.
Back in business.
So we got here we go. We got Brooks kicking it off at 12K. We got Rory 11-4, DJ 10-7, Rahm 10-4, JT flat 10K, which mirrors fantasy draft on the other side, same order. What do you make? I mean, Brooks is obviously very expensive. I'm not going to be popular, but I don't see myself going there, which is no surprise, as you know.
Yeah, I mean, why would we want to play the guy that wins all the time?
Every event.
Yeah, he is expensive, and it's especially when you start comparing him to some of the guys down the line who we would consider to be equals to him, like your Rahms and JTs and DJs. But just playing so well. Won the WGC, 4th at the Open Championship. This isn't a major, but it's a strong field. It's a tough course. It's the same type of environment that we've seen him dominate in for the last couple years. And he's been playing a lot lately. He didn't play last week, but he played the 2 weeks prior. And I think when we see him say, I don't only practice before majors, I don't know. It's hard. He seems like he's in a groove to me. And like you said, 12K is expensive. He wouldn't be my first option at the top, but I'm going to have some. I mean, he's just right now head and shoulders above everybody. Like you said, I don't think he's going to be popular, but would not be my first choice.
Who would be? Because for me, I actually like Rahm. Playing really well. Obviously, I'm not saying Brooks though, but he showed up in all the majors, was good in Memphis. We know he can be aggressive with the driver here. I think this course will suit what he wants to do well. The tough thing about him is just, you're talking about paying up a little more for DJ, and you could go down to JT. These are all premium options.
Yeah, I like Rahm. I mean, it's really hard to argue with what he's done. 7th at the WGC, 11th at the Open Championship, first in Ireland, second in Spain, very good at the US Open. It's going to be hard for me to get away from DJ at 10-7, especially when you think about a $1,300 discount from Brooks. I mean, over the last 10 years, DJ's been the most consistent and the best golfer, in my opinion. I mean, he really hasn't had any downswings in a very long time. And, wasn't good in Memphis, T20, was not great at the Open. But prior to that, I mean, he had some bad finishes, but the ball striking was really good. We go back to the US Open. We go back to the Canadian Open. The ball striking was there. It's really kind of like 3 events in a row of kind of so-so performance. But I mean, I just see that $1,300 difference between him and Brooks, and that's going to be hard for me to get away from.
Last man we didn't mention was Rory. What a show. We're breaking new ground here. Who obviously I would lean to a little over DJ. And you're right. DJ had a cold putter in there. And he doesn't, he's one of the safest. We talk about that all the time. His big thing, and it's not applicable here, is I think most people would argue he should have more than one major at this point, just because of how good he is. But, when we're talking about in a vacuum, obviously this is the first event, 10-7. There's nothing wrong with that. He's probably going to be an ownership play for me. If I can get over with like 15%, I'll probably try to do that. But I really like the spot for Rahm, and I'm always kind of partial to Rory, who there's no doubt Brooks whooped him on Sunday. Wasn't even a fight, but at the same time, I'm still encouraged. Rory played very well, just not the finish he was looking for in Memphis.
Yeah, the thing that concerns me with Rory, and I mean it's one event, so I don't want to get too carried away with stats from one event. Yeah, the irons were bad. Lost 2.6 on approach. Gained 7.8 on and around the greens, which really isn't his game. You couple that with the miscut at the Open Championship, but he rallied on Friday. But yeah, it's kind of like a couple red flags in the last few weeks for Rory, with me at least.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of, we've talked at length. Rory. One of the things, and I don't know, he kind of struggles with almost wedges more. So I kind of like that even the longer drivers, they're going to have some long irons into a course like this. And I don't mind that for a guy like Rory, because the number of times you see him hit at 360 and have legitimately 75 yards left, and then he's 30 yards away for birdie, is troubling. So I'm fine with him. I think his game is still almost underrated, because people kind of think he can't close, and he actually can. It's just Brooks is a different level right now.
Yeah, Rory can hit an iron from 220 to like 8 feet, but he can't hit like a 3/4
I don't
wedge.
get it. And that's the DJ. Like, DJ's wedges are obviously unbelievable. His game's just not firing on all cylinders. But for me, I mean, honestly, all 5, we saw JT. It's been mostly the putter. You're going to have options here. You can pair him up and be aggressive? Obviously, this is an easy 6 of 6 to make. It's not a give me by any stretch, but these are all top end options. It's hard to really find red flags. It's just going to be personal preference for me.
Yeah, I mean, I like JT as well. Really seemed to turn a corner. We saw the ball striking was good for a while, and the putter was bad, and then it's kind of getting a little bit of everything going. 12th at WGC, 11th at the Open, 9th at Scotland. I like him. For me, it's DJ, then JT, then maybe a little bit of Rahm, I guess. It's so tough at the top, though.
Very tough. Yeah, for me, it would be Rahm and Rory. As Chap points out, DJ's just a fancy cam champ. I respect that take.
Wow.
Yeah, bringing the fire. But as we work down, then we get into the Englishman. We got Tommy Fleetwood kicking off the 9K range. We got Rose, who just lurks on the unstoppable rebel force that is Webb Simpson. Then we got Ricky Cantlay Kuchar, Tiger to round it out. As always, the 9K range to me is a lot more tricky. There's some guys I like, some guys not going to have. What do you make? I mean, Tiger flat 9K is very interesting.
This might be the first week of the year I play Tiger.
Wow. This show is out of control today. I don't love Rory. You're talking about Tiger.
I mean, so he hasn't played a lot lately. He missed the cut at the Open. His last 3 starts, and this is crazy when you think about the last 3 starts, the Open Championship miscut, 21st at the US Open, the ball striking was good, plus 5.3. and 9th at Memorial. Ball striking was good, plus 6.9. He was second here both times they played. I feel like that's just going to draw ownership. I don't really even care too much about that, but I guess it's something to lean on, but I think it's going to attract more ownership than maybe I would like. But yeah, I think Tiger's a decent play at 9K. I like Rose at 9,600, just keeps churning out good finishes. Yeah, I prefer Rose over Fleetwood. I just think Rose is head and shoulders. When we're talking about win equity above Fleetwood. Fleetwood's had a lot of good finishes too, but Rose, I just feel a lot more comfortable in him closing the door if he's right there on Sunday than I do with Fleetwood.
You know, it's sad because I agree with you, but man, the number of times that I've had Rose on a Sunday this year that have not worked out, I can count it. Not that Fleetwood's knocking down any doors, so I'm with
That
you.
80 at the Open Championship that didn't do anything for you.
It did something for me, just not exactly what I was looking for. But yeah, the game it's interesting when you look at the stats. Crushed it with the irons last week. The driver wasn't great. The putter's been pretty good, but he hasn't put together, what we used to see with Rose, which is just basically gaining everywhere. I think he's getting close, though. This course, as you talked about, I'm not drawing a ton from 2013, but it's not a bad thing that he's seen it and clearly played well. So I have no problem going with Rose. I'm always apt to do that and take the savings. The guy I want to talk about, because you mentioned Tiger, I think Cantlay sets up very well. That's no surprise. What do you make of Ricky? We haven't seen him, really. Obviously, he battled in those conditions on Sunday, played very well at the Open. He played well in 2013 here. Do you have any feel on him?
No, not really. It feels like an afterthought. Like I just haven't even given him much thought in the last couple months. 6th at the Open was good, but it's almost like it happened. The Open Championship is such a different course. It's almost like it's easy to throw out a result, like a missed cut there. And to me, it's almost easy to one random good start. It's kind of easy to throw that out because it's just such a different beast than all these other courses. And that was really kind of his only good finish in the last 7-8 weeks. So
Yeah, he hasn't played much.
No, he has not.
And it is true. It's been a somewhat quiet summer for him. Obviously, he was good earlier in the year. Waste Management, Wells Fargo played well. Ricky plays well. It's always a polarizing subject of where you think he should be priced. Just generally, I have no problem with him. I do think that he's going to be, especially relative to Ricky, he's getting more and more forgotten as weeks go by because we haven't seen much from him. So that's a name that I'm keeping an eye on. What are you going to do with Webb? I mean, I obviously, I have to take the L. He was fantastic again last week. I didn't like him at all at 11-2, and he responded. Shouldn't have came in second, but he was up there, no doubt. Do you have any interest at 9,400?
No, not really.
Yeah,
I mean, Wyndham, he's owned Wyndham. It's a short, easy track, weak field, Bermuda. St. Jude, stronger field, but a short, easy Bermuda track. I don't know. This is a different type of course. It's a stronger field. And you look at the names around him. I mean, Rose, Ricky, Cantlay. I mean, those are some really quality players. And not that Webb isn't a quality player, but I feel like we've just been so used to maybe paying 7,800 for him in a field like this. I'm not in love with the course fit. I think people will still play him because he's obviously has back-to-back second-place finishes. He has 3 second-place finishes in his last 5 starts. I know it's crazy, but yeah, I don't love the course fit. And when we're talking about either Justin Rose or Webb Simpson, I'll play Justin Rose 100% of the time.
I am with you. We had a question from chat, and it is interesting. We just talked about these guys, but before we move on, if you had one lineup, Cantlay or Tiger?
Probably Tiger.
I think I lean that way too. Part of it's because I think Cantlay is going to be very popular, and I have no problem with either of them. But this feels, I'll say this, and obviously this isn't going to help you if it's the latter. But if Tiger doesn't play good this week, obviously I think he kind of shuts it down till Augusta. I could see him making a FedEx charge per se, but it's going to start this week. He needs a good showing here, and I think he's more than capable. He's rested. He should be ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, people say, oh, he hasn't done anything since Augusta. Well, he just hasn't played that much. and he wasn't good at the Open, but like I said, he was decent at the U.S. Open. He was decent at Memorial. I mean, he wasn't bad. We just haven't seen a lot of him, and I think the last time we saw him was at the Open Championship where he missed the cut, and it feels like we were at a point where everybody loved Tiger, everybody wanted to play Tiger. Now it's like nobody even talks about him.
It's true, yeah. I mean, even over on Fantasy Draft, he's 15-9. They have a little more expensive pricing because it's 7 golfers, and that's more than reasonable. Him and Fleetwood make fine targets there. But as we work down, this is where we got Xander. These are tough names. This is a really tough range. Xander, Adam Scott, guys like Bryson, and then you mentioned Morikawa being more expensive than guys like Decky, guys like Day. What are you doing in a situation like that? Clearly, some people may argue this. I think Decky and Day are clearly better golfers than a guy like Morikawa. I know how well he's playing, and I think he could be really good. But I usually tend to take the long-term approach with the more known commodity.
Yeah, I'm with you, and especially like we're talking about really good golfers. I mean, Hideki, multiple wins, multiple WGCs. Day was the best golfer on the planet for a while, and he's on a little bit of a downturn. But yeah, I mean, Morikawa he's gonna be great. He came out hot, but like we said, he's beat up on some weak fields, and that's nothing against him. He just played the fields that he could get into. I mean, I'm not to take a shot at him, but this is a huge step up. I mean, this is a really quality field, and yeah, I'm not ready to pay this price for him when you can get guys like Decky, Day, Bryson. Not that I love those plays, but I mean, just we know what those guys can do. We know that they can win at the highest level. Morikawa has just come out of the gate hot, and we've seen so many of these guys go up and down, like your Niemans, like your Brysons. I mean, eventually these guys are going to come back down to earth. They're not going to be Wolf and Morikawa and Hovland are not going to be 1, 2, 3 in the world golf rankings this time next year. I mean, they're going to fall off, and nothing against him. I just prefer the more kind of tried and true quality golfers that we've seen, winning tournaments, winning WGCs, winning majors.
It's the thing, yeah. I mean, Morikawa could play fine. With this price, there's not a lot of wiggle room. Like he has to play very well. If he makes the cut and comes in 40th, that's not going to get it done. Especially he's in a range with legitimate people. I mean, Bryson, obviously he's not playing good, but he won 2 straight last year at this. Obviously he's the defending champ. I know it's a different course, but still, Chat mentioned Molinari, who another guy we haven't seen a ton of, but he should like the course. He's going to gain off the tee. Obviously can be fantastic with long irons. And then, right below Morikawa, Finau, Day, Patrick Reed, Billy Ho, who quietly is like the FedEx assassin. I don't really understand that, but like, what is that?
I don't know. Him and Webb are just trying to like crash this party. Like
it's really disturbing. So for me, I think I lean, if I'm going to take a shot with a guy who's not playing great, I think I lean Bryson over Decky. I don't know what to make of Hideki at this point. Obviously some really ugly missed cuts lately. He's not playing awful, but he just doesn't seem to be doing much, and the win equity hasn't been there this year.
Yeah, very true. Decky's been up and down, but I don't know. Bryson, I don't know what happened when he went to the Open Championship, but he came back and it was not good. Like he looked prime. Like he was on his way back in the tournaments running up to the Open. The ball striking had come around. Then he went over there, was bad. Was bad at the WGC. I'm not sure what to make of him either. Boy, I don't know. We have to mix in some Xander. I feel like you just have to.
The guy he's a great driver of the ball. I will say though, he's not playing great. It's such a weird thing because again, we have a limited sample size with the top end names, and someone like Xander, you look at kind of what he's been doing. 27th at St. Jude, 41st at the Open, 3rd at the U.S. Open. Then it goes back, but now we're getting into results that are legitimately 2-3 months ago. Quickly, it's not a lot of body of work. So I agree. I think if you're making enough teams, Xander is certainly a guy to consider. He's a big, non-cuts. Not that this is a non-cut, but it's an easier cut. WGCs, majors. He's a big-time event kind of guy. He's won a tour championship, so it's clearly that the stage won't be too big for him.
I agree. Let's talk about a guy I really like in this range.
Finau?
love Tony Finau. Um, I don't know. Is he gonna be chalk? Am I just gonna tout like a
I,
40% on Tony
it's
Finau?
just I don't think so because there's enough. I think Reed will take enough to keep him. He's not going to be low owned. I think we both agree on that. But talk to the people about Finau because he's very interesting fly.
So the first thing I want to point out is the guy crushes majors. All right. Now this is not a major. I'm not confused. But, majors, tough fields, and just tougher scoring environments, regardless of what major it is, where it's being played. I mean, the majors are they're tougher scoring environments than normal tournaments. So I think that's what we have this week. We have a strong field, we have a tough scoring environment. So I mean, he's thrived in those conditions in the past, and he kind of had a lull, but the last 3 weeks, or his last three events, I think he's really turned it around. We saw him third at the Open Championship. He was 27th at the WGC, but I mean, he gained 5.5 with the ball striking, so that was very solid. And I just love, I mean, I think his price is great. I think the setup is great, and he looks to kind of be back on the uptick. And I think this is just a great spot for him.
Yeah, Finau obviously it's been a weird year for him. Just some really bad results. Obviously, he shows up. Was really really impressive again. I know the Open it's very polarizing, but he was so impressive in the brutal weather on Sunday. I don't think that necessarily makes him apt to do something here. It's just a side note. And then yeah, middling in Memphis, but I do like the course. Obviously, he's going to do his heavy lifting with the driver, and he can get there. We have to mention I have to mention Jason Day, who's just killing me lately. I don't know what to make of his best asset is kind of gone right now, and that's why we talk about how putting can be so erratic. Uh, do you even want to kind of mess around with him this week? Or are you just going to let people like me probably chase him again?
I think I tracked every shot that he hit at Memphis, and it was just painful, and it scarred me. Just he just did nothing. Like he just never got anything close going. Like it was just not happening. And I think I was just so annoyed by wasting all my time just watching Shot Tracker and trying to will him to do something, and it just never happened. He missed the cut. He missed the cut at the Open. He was not good the start before that. T66.
Oh,
It
he
just
missed the
has
cut at
not.
the Open.
It
Worst
has not been a
miscutting
good
ever.
run for him, and 8,200 seems like a good price. But God, I almost feel like he should be cheaper the way he's been playing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there is, I'll be honest, there's definitely a bias because I see his name and I'm like, wow, he could be my third guy in, Jason Day. But he's not playing well right now. I definitely am going to use him because I still believe that he's closer than most. But it's hard to really glean a ton from him. You've got guys like Reed, you've got other flyers that we've talked about in the range, and he's just not doing much. Day has to putt. We've talked about this a lot with Ricky. Spieth is kind of a different animal, but it's the same concept of if you're doing your heavy lifting with the short game, you have to putt because they cannot keep up with the ball striking like some of these other guys. So it's a tremendous amount of stress. And atypically, Jason Day is not, he's losing around the green more often than not. And that's just something that we used to never see that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I feel like it's been like 2 or 3 weeks in a row of me seeing the price on Day, saying he's too cheap. I can't believe we're getting him for this price, and he's just been awful. So I don't know if I'm going to go there again this week.
Fair enough. So as we work down, like I said, we got Reed, we got Billy Ho. I think they're both going to be very popular. I don't have much to say. I've been playing Patrick Reed. It's going to be 8 out of 9 weeks that he's teed it up, though. That's a lot of golf, but it's Patrick Reed, and he likes to play, so I'm not overly concerned.
I am really confused on what to do with Reed. Been heavy on him the last few weeks, and he's played great. We got the really great putting performance last week. I think he gained over 6 strokes putting, and then what happened? He lost strokes on approach. The ball striking basically went back to 0. So I don't know. I mean, he's going to be popular, but that finish last week, T22, kind of scares me. It was all done with the putter. And we know he's a good putter, but that's not something I'm not encouraged by that. I mean, if he can bring the ball striking back and the putter stays the same, now you're in business. But he was lucky to finish T22 last week. The ball striking, which had been great, really kind of fell off. He did it all with the putter, and that's not something I'm looking to get get back to, especially if he's going to be owned. To me, it's more of a red flag than anything.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it was a weird week for him. He did not play well. He shot 63 on Sunday. And, at that course, that's a couple better than everyone else, sadly, because it's such a joke. But obviously, he rallied. A lot of heavy lifting with the putter. I do think that this course could set up well for him if it's pretty generous with the rough. There's some fescue, but you have to spray it pretty badly. If he can just, lean on that short game, I may use him in certain builds, but if he's 35% owned in some, small field tournaments, that's a tough ask for me, obviously. So,
yeah, I mean, it just felt like he was building towards something, and then last week it went haywire with the ball striking not being good and the putter being great, and I feel like even more people are going to pile on him this week, and it's just kind of not that trajectory that I was looking for. I know that sounds strange, but it's just like last week was totally different than the 3 or 4 previous weeks where he played well. So I don't know I feel like there's some red flags.
I agree. I mean, it's certainly not, we have more data points with him, which kind of make it murkier in a way because there's a lot to like, but there's also some legitimate concerns. But as we work down, I mean, we've got guys talk about one-offs. We've got Spieth, we've got Usti, Shane Lowry, if he is not still drunk, Benny On, Woodland is back, Leishman. This is a super interesting range. No one, I think, feels great, but at the same time, you might be able to get a couple of these guys at really low ownership.
Yeah, I mean, you just plug in Day, you plug in Spieth, I mean, and you got like the 2015. And if we went back to like 2015 and I told you we were getting Day and Spieth for like an average of 8K. I mean,
what a time to be alive.
Print fest.
Yep. Yeah, Morikawa is just more expensive than all. I didn't know who that was, obviously, in 2015. So life comes at you fast. What do you make, though? I mean, obviously, some of these guys, Woodland, his wife just had the kids. He's back. Lowry's coming off a major win. Benion's coming off a near miss. Leishman, he was talk about tilting. He rebounded so nicely. I was 1 week too early on him. Played well in Memphis. Do you have a favorite in this kind of high sevens range?
Yeah, this isn't a range that I like. I mean, I would go to Woodland at 7,800. I think a lot of people are going to go there, even though hasn't been great the last 3 weeks or since the U.S. Open win. But I mean, that price is pretty ridiculous for him at 7,800. Yeah, and I like Leishman. I mean, I've always liked Leishman. Like you said, he played great. I think 7,800, decent price for him. But I mean, this upper 7 range just isn't somewhere that I like. There's not a lot of targets for me here.
No, this is just, I think, a range that if you have a team and you got some chalky guys, and say it ends with Billy Ho or Reed, not ends, but say they're in there. If you want to change it up, pivot to one of these type of guys that can really make a difference. Usti. Obviously, I'm not playing Spieth, but I don't mind him, and I'm willing to chase Benny on a bit. He's found something with the putter. I know that sounds ridiculous, but he's gained in 4 out of 5, and it's not a lot. But when you're used to losing 5 strokes putting, even if you gain 0, it's a wash. Obviously, that's a big improvement from where he was.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, the problem with Benny was always that you were worried he was going to lose 5 or 6 strokes putting. Yeah, if you get break-even putting out of him, I mean, you're well ahead of the game. And yeah, it does seem like he's turned it around. I'm just trying to figure out what kind of course. I would think that a Birdie Fest wouldn't suit him, but then you think about last week's super easy course, almost won. You look back at the other places he's gone close. Zurich, when that was an individual event, Waste Management. I don't know. I'm confused by what type of course fits it, because I would think a tougher course would be better for him, but you look at the places he's done come close and it seems more Birdie Fest. So I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking things with him. Maybe he doesn't have a fit. I don't know.
No, there are some guys. I was about to say that there are some guys that it's more about just can they get it going, and they are a little atypical. Obviously, there are tendencies within the stats, but I don't think every golfer, like sometimes we do get into even last week, and I certainly mentioned this multiple times with Benny on. It's like, well, you can't win in a putting competition because it's like, yeah, or he just hits it so close that he makes a couple of 8-footers and there you go. He obviously needed to gain some strokes putting, and he did. But it can happen that way. So I don't have a ton. I mean, as we work down, the Wolfman is there, Sneds, Poulter. This is a very dead range for me on both sites. As we look at fantasy draft, kind of mirrors the same pricing. It's just kind of double. But what say you about these guys? Sunjay Im, Neiman, any interest?
No, not really. I think Ches caught my eye. The results have not been good, but the ball striking was really great at Wyndham. He gained 6.7 at the WGC. He gained 6. But if you're just tracking results, that's really not going to catch your eye because he was T48 and T27. But he struck it great in those two events. So that was kind of interesting to me as an under the radar guy, a guy that I saw something in that I don't think a lot of other people will see. So probably some low ownership there. The next guy I would get down to would be Bubba at 7,400.
Dear God.
Dear God, he was T13 here in 2013. So does that make it a Bubba course?
Well, we both kind of were right about that. The WGC with Bubba could have been a Bubba course, and he was good. He hung in there nicely. So it was just such a weird week in Memphis. He actually lost strokes off the tee. That's talk about a rarity. The last time he did that was at Sony. Everything else was fantastic though. So I don't mind actually going to Bubba. I will say though, Sergio is also there. Who's talk about a wild card. He's an aggressive driver with the ball, but his antics seem to just have him not in the right head right now.
Yeah, I'm
like
going
he's
with
insane.
Bubba. I can't. Yeah, he is definitely insane. Something's wrong with it.
Yeah.
I mean, Bubba's insane, but it's kind of like a quirky kind of way. I think Sergio is has issues, like real issues.
Yeah, no, he's a sicko.
But yeah, you mentioned really, really strange performance from Bubba in Memphis where he lost strokes off the tee. And that's like his whole game. His whole game is like he's going to gain like over a stroke or close to a stroke per round off the tee, and then everything else it's kind of like hang on and see what happens. But the approach game was good, plus 3.7. And that's not a course I don't think it's a great course for bombing the ball, and maybe that had something to do with it. But this might suit him a little bit better. If he can get the tee game turned around, and maybe this is just a different course where rewards off the tee play, maybe that will help him out. But yeah, I like him. I mean, 7,400, that's a crazy price, especially in an event where we'll call it a limited cut event. I mean, it's like an invitational, but there's some really terrible guys at the bottom. So it's a pretty easy cut to make. I don't want to say that and just jinx them, but
every time we say that, there's been like multiple invitations this year where we're like, wow, it's only 120 guys, super easy cut. 6 of 6 is like 1%.
Yeah, if you don't get 6 of 6 this week, just quit, and then we're all terrible.
It's 3 of 6 over here, but it is. I mean, I know there's some guys, but the bottom half of this field, not the bottom half, but like the last 30 guys, it's still pretty weak. So even if they don't have it, these type of guys should find the weekend. And we know Bubba can score. He's got a couple par fives to attack. He's got a short par 4. He just needs to get the driver. That's living. I'll tell you this, him and Rahm are similar in that way. Like if they don't gain off the tee, you're living extremely dangerous. The rest of their game, it's not the best, but it can work. It's certainly, we've seen Bubba be effective with that formula.
And they're both head cases too. They're really like very similar players.
Don't say that because I'm a big Rahm guy and I can't with Bubba. Just so sick. Man, yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And, tomorrow night I'll expand on this. When I just envision what I want to build, I honestly talk about it. It's like a dead range that expands like 1,000. I don't like any of these plays. I know we're highlighting a couple, but I'm really going to be funneling upwards and then have to get a few cheapies.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I felt like the lineups I like to build was like very stars and scrubsy because I think there's some really cheap guys you can play and obviously a ton of expensive guys. And yeah, the whole middle range seemed a little dead. Not a lot of targets here for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking down. So the next guy I just want to mention, he's 12,300 on Fantasy Draft, which is appealing, 7,200 on DraftKings. It's your boy, Kyle Stanley. 6 straight cuts made. He's gained on the irons in all 6. good course, can handle long par fours. I feel like he's a pretty good option in the low sevens.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think you kind of started driving the train and then I hopped on, and we've been kind of going along here for about 5 or 6 weeks, and it's been good. Yeah, the ball striking's been good. It's just been good, consistent kind of week in and week out ball striking and decent results. T13 last week, the best I don't know in a very long time for him. So I like him. Piercy is another one, a little bit like Reevy. The finishes on paper weren't great, but the ball striking, I know you're shocked to see me touting Scott Piercy. But yeah, he gained 5.3 at Wyndham, where he was T36, gained 6.8 at the 3M, where he was T15, back-to-back really good ball striking performances out of him. So another one, if you're just looking at the results, probably not a lot there, but the ball striking was better than the putting, so kind of a sneaky guy. And then at flat 7, man, I love Grillo this week.
No, Jesus. Where's he been? Another guy.
He was at the look at his approach numbers from the Barracuda. I think he gained 12 strokes on approach. I mean, that's just like unheard of. He was just throwing darts. I know that's a crappy event, but
18th. That's typical Grillo.
Yeah, I think he broke the record for strokes gained approach, and he couldn't even finish in the top
15. Can't cash a top 10.
It's that stupid Stableford scoring. If that was stroke play, I think he would have ran away with it. But
that's what they want you to think. I mean, you don't have to say much to get me into Grillo. And Chad is asking about Russell Henley, who's the same price. I have some interest, but at the same time, I think I'm going to roll with Grillo as well. Great ball striker. We know that the putting issues are certainly real, and Benny has made strides in all these areas. In majors, we saw him take next steps. Grillo really sputtered once again, but I'm not giving up that easily. Bentgrass is his preferred surface, and the iron should be good enough to at least get him to the weekend. So I'm with you there. Do you have any interest? I know this is going to sound kind of stupid. Do you have any interest in Phil Mickelson?
No, not at all.
Okay. I don't really either. I just wanted to say that.
Get that out of here. I'll throw, as far as Henley goes, he's another one. Him and Reed have kind of gone hand in hand with me for the last few weeks, where I've ridden both of them. But the same thing with Henley last week is the ball striking just wasn't there. The putter honestly wasn't really that great. So 1.2 putting, but yeah, really just kind of fell off. Wasn't a great performance. I thought last week was a phenomenal spot for him, a phenomenal course. Short course, Bermuda. Now we're on a longer, tougher course. We're on bent grass greens. The kind of everything that we loved about him leading into last week went away. So I'm off Henley this week.
Obviously, I'm just looking at some guys here. Siwoo, just after we mentioned, you don't want to jump on him just from the abyss. Nice top 5 finish.
This is really the week you don't want to jump on him now. Now you definitely don't want to play him.
Definitely do not. I'm going to give you I don't want to say he's a sleeper, but one more guy, and then we can get into the egregious. Danny Willett. And it's just a low-scoring environment. Kind of been playing, treading water, was really good in the majors, 12th at the U.S. Open, 6th at the Open. Didn't do much at Memphis, and the irons weren't great. Pretty much nothing was good, but he's striking the ball well off the tee. And I think this course could suit him well. If the winning score, I believe Adam Scott's was in, it's like 10, 11 under. If we see that once again this week, Danny Willett is a guy I think could hang around here at really low ownership and certainly an appealing price.
Yeah, you're right. Definitely seems to play better in tougher conditions. Will not be owned.
The stats aren't great. That I admit.
I chase the stats. I need the guys that just gain on approach and suck at putting like Grillo.
We'll get to Corey Connors in a second. Don't worry.
Oh man, that guy's he's winning by at least 5 shots this week.
Yep, just going. He's going to win all 4. He's just going to hit for the cycle, all 4 events, even the one where he starts 30 strokes down to Brooke. But that's neither here nor there. Let's get into so now we're getting into the cheapies. I mean, I'll just kick it off really quick. Obviously, Aaron Wise, 6,900. I have absolutely no problem. 12-2 on fantasy draft. Can use his driver here. Doesn't mind long approaches. I don't know what's not to like. I think he's just a better player than a lot of these guys.
Yeah, he's your boy. You're probably right. I don't know.
Why? Yeah, what? I think you kind of hate him in life. Why do you have to hate Aaron Wise? He's a good guy.
I don't know what it is about him. I
I mean, I will say he's lost in 5 out of 6 with the irons.
There we go. That's what I hate. I look at all these numbers and like to me, I don't see Aaron Wise. I see like he's losing like a half a stroke on approach, and I equate him with like Aaron Baddeley or something, and just I totally discount the off the tee, totally discount any other stats. So
he isn't playing as good as I thought he was, but I will say I do like Wise when he can use that driver. I'll be honest, and then I'm passing it to you. I looked at Brandon Grace really closely, and I feel disgusting about it because
he's another one. Throw him in there with your Day, Spieth, Grace lineups, and it's like,
and it's like a
Chambers Bay in 2016. You have like the top 3 of the U.S. Open. No, he's been god awful. I mean, he has not been good at all.
No, he's absolutely been terrible. I will say, if you're looking for some positivity, the short game last week was on fire, but he can't get it going tee to green.
Hopefully he misses a lot of greens this week so he can utilize that short game.
The Aaron Baddeley formula to success. Obviously I'm naming some bozos. What do you find down here? I mean, are you going to guys like Vegas, like Watney, or are you looking for like,
all bozos? I'm embarrassed to name. I'm embarrassed to name some of these names. First on the egregious list is Martin Laird, who I was in love with last week. Shot 66 on Friday, birdied the first hole, or shot 66 on Thursday, birdied the first hole on Friday, and then just completely imploded and missed the cut. Just abysmal short game last week. Awful on the greens, awful around the greens. The ball striking was good, which it had been in the 4 tournaments prior to that. I mean, he was well on his way to another great ball striking performance. Just really was the short game that let him down last week. I'm going to go back. I don't love him in this stronger field, but the numbers have been good with him. Who else? Your boy Bud Colley, kind of just 4 or 5 weeks of decent play, decent ball striking. Nothing spectacular, but he seems to be coming back kind of on the right direction and just look at good, consistent ball striking. I don't know. I guess there's a couple guys. Nick Taylor was another one who had been playing consistent, striking the ball well. And he missed the cut last week, but again, struck it well and was just bad with the putter. Lost 4 strokes putting in 2 rounds. So, I mean, I wouldn't mind going back to him, but he wouldn't be my first guy in. But yeah, Laird and Colley at the upper 6 range were the 2 that kind of caught my eye.
What about Cameron Tringale?
So he's the perfect prime example of, do you value the stats and finishes against terrible fields? Because this is we're talking about a totally different beast in this field. I mean, he's been beating up on the awful fields, and the stats have been good, but boy, I don't know. This is a big ask on a tough course and a really strong field.
I kind of lean that way too. Andrew Landry, there's some guys like that where you see it and you're like, man, some of these stats are pretty intoxicating. The irons are in form, but it is a lot different when half the field, I'm not going to just name some egregious golfers, but this is a lot different. So I tend to not go there. I will say Martin Laird, his putter is it was unbelievable how bad that was.
So he's like, I'm just tilting, and he was like, he's trying to make the cut on Friday. He hit multiple greens in regulation on the back nine on Friday where his par putt was longer than 10 feet. Like his first putt was either 12 feet short or he blew it by 12 feet multiple times. Like he just gave up. Like he's completely lost or has the yips.
Yeah, it was bad. That's
ringing endorsements here. Ringing endorsements.
What can you say though? Obviously, at the same time, if you're looking for positive, do you know how much room for just easy improvement if he doesn't do things like that? Because he did strike it certainly good enough to get through last week.
If he found a cure for the yips in the last 4 days, look out. I mean, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Print fest. Yeah, I mean, I honestly, like I said, I don't see a ton that I like down here. I've seen some people mention Killa Keith.
Oh, no.
I don't see it. He's not a good
The
bench
the
draft
bent
guy.
the bent grass is going to be a killer. That's what's going to be a
Yeah,
killer.
the irons are just talk about bad.
He might bank one off the Freedom Tower or something.
Yeah, there's he's gonna be in the Hudson. It's bad. HV3 6,400. I like that price, but again, I don't see a ton of guys here that I think can keep up in a really strong field.
I love Connors. You
Oh,
mentioned it
Jesus.
before.
This guy,
He's so good though. I mean, the short
is
game.
he?
Yes, he is. Did you watch the Valero Texas Open?
No, I missed that one. I really
Did you
did.
watch that event?
In more ways than one. He's an unbelievable ball striker. He might be a legitimate, top 5, top 10 ball striker on tour.
Yes, he really is. 1.3 gains 0.74 off the tee, gains 0.63 on approach. I mean, yeah, the short game sucks, but for 6,500, I mean, he was decent the last couple of weeks. He was decent at the WGC. He was decent at Wyndham. Missed the cut at the Open. He gained 10.2 with the ball striking at the 3M. I mean, but this is 6,500. I mean, you're getting like a top 5 ball striker in the world. If he can just not fall apart with the short game, this is like the punt range, and this is a guy that's won on tour this year, and I don't think it was a fluke win. I mean, I think he's going to win again. I mean, this isn't. I don't know what else to say for 6,500. I mean, we're not talking about an 8K player here.
Yeah, he's 11.4 on Fantasy Drive. He's very cheap. I'll say this: I'd be more apt to take him there, where you get a golfer that it's 7 and you only keep 6, because the upside is there. But I worry, when you can't putt to that degree, it is extremely difficult. But he does have a win on tour.
I'm playing him. I'm playing Grillo, and I'm saying I don't give a shit.
YOLO.
I don't care about the short game. Just give me the fairways. Give me the greens.
You're going to be racking them up. So then are you just playing flat 7K Taylor Gooch?
No, because his numbers have not been good. I'm surprised he's even made it into the playoffs.
It's amazing. I don't know how it works. Like, Patrick Rogers is here. I don't understand that.
I think he must have crushed like the fall swing and just racked up a lot of points.
He must have, because he hasn't been anywhere. Last guy I meant, you got Raiden, Joel Dahman, and his bucket hat 6,300 returned. But again, these guys, the form is just pretty bad. So like you said at the top of the show, just to tie it all in, if I'm going to take someone that I think maybe isn't at the level of some of the bigger names, they damn well better be playing good in these alternative events or, the recent form. It's hard to really go to these guys who are also not playing great. I'd rather just take stabs with the Grios of the world, who they're not playing great, but at least they're not playing great in like majors.
I thought you were going to tout Charlie Hoffman for a second.
No, I can't. Chad already just body bagged me with Charlie Hoffman comments, and there's no defense. Him and Luke List are in I was talking to Josh before the show about this, just a absolute battle of who can make a cut first. They are both really struggling.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. You know who another one of another paper champion like the Tringale is Roger Sloane at 6,400. He's another guy just racking up finishes and stats against terrible fields. And you could go double Canadians. You could go Roger Sloane and Corey Connors and just pair him with like Brooks and DJ or something. But
yeah,
there's not a lot. I like Connors. He's definitely the guy I'm going to down here. And then everyone else, it's ugly. There's nothing else I like below 6,500.
It's pretty bad. Yeah, I mean, like JJ Spawn is a guy that I played last week. Didn't think he played too well. Pat Perez is a name I looked at, but not playing well at all. It's really going to come down to builds. And again, tomorrow night, 9 p.m. EST, me and Jason Roslin will be breaking down kind of how this is falling, because obviously in my mind, I'll take Rahm, I'll take some Rory, pair it with Bryson, pair it with a couple of, well, I'm going to have negative 4,000 left for the last spot. That could be a slight problem. So I'm going to have to find a way to make this work, whether it's building more balanced or finding a couple 6K guys that I'm comfortable with. Any final thoughts before we duck on out of here?
No, I think it's an interesting week. Like we said, should be a decent number of 6-6 teams. I know we always kind of jinx that when we say it, but yeah, just plan for that. Plan for a lot of 6-6 teams. So you're gonna have to focus on scoring, and I'm thinking it's gonna be a tougher scoring environment. So that's something I'm gonna focus on this week. After having like a run of Birdie Fest, I think we should see maybe some different names thrive this week at a place where maybe the winning score is only 10 or 11 under.
It is a different mindset. I think that's one thing that we've talked about a lot, and it's really important, and we saw another JT Boston. That's that mentality of, you attack, you make your putts, you're going to shoot. No one's shooting 23 under this week. That's just not happening. And if it is, it will be Charlie Hoffman. That much I guarantee. But I think we don't have to worry about that. But, I do think some of the experience of getting in these type of events and this type of the year, grinding it out, shooting 68 is now not a death sentence, which is what I really prefer. Some of these tournaments, when guys are not making, Benyon had one bogey, and it was on the easy par 5, but that's neither here nor there. This is going to be a totally different animal.
Yeah, I agree. And to me, this is a more interesting style of golf too, with a little, I like to see some bogeys mixed in rather than it's like, your guy shoots 69 and he's done because he got passed by the entire field. So I like some bogeys mixed in my golf after we've seen like 5 weeks in a row of just birdie after birdie after birdie after birdie. I mean, that's interesting. It's kind of fun to watch. But this is a better brand of golf in my opinion.
No doubt. And as I've said, like I said, tomorrow night, lineup construction, ownership, these things are going to play a role because, this is a interesting hybrid. It's obviously a super strong field. It's not a non-cut, but it's a shorter field. So you're going to have to do some things to find that leverage. It's not where it's like, oh my God, I have to leave 1,000 on the table to be unique. But, there's not as much options, especially when we work down. So I hope everyone will stop by. Obviously, hit the like button. And, quick shout out again to Fantasy Draft. They got some cool things going on over there. We'll be talking about that again tomorrow, but we're going to duck on out of here. We will see what we can do. Hopefully, we get it right, but I'm excited for FedEx Cup season. Good luck to everyone, and me and Tim will be back next week for, what is it? Do you know?
BMW Championship?
I think it's the BMW. I think it's from Medina.
Yeah.
Okay. We're on top of things in this show, so we will see you next week from Medina. Good luck, everyone. Take care.